I've spent quite a lot of time researching our relationship with different forms of media over the years, and with connectivity in particular. Part of this method that I've been playing with is first and foremost about like filtering by emotion. So if your emotional response to what you're consuming is unhelpful, and obviously everyone has a sort of right to decide what that is for themselves, right? But if it's unhelpful, and particularly if the response to that unhelpful emotion, how you're carrying that out into the world, how that might affect relationships, that should be a starting point for a filtering process. And then on top of that, just getting a sense of like, you know, what is nutritious, what is delicious, what is trash, which, you know, every once in a while, like a McNugget, like it'll hit the spot in spite of its empty calorie sort of proposition, but it has its role. And then the fourth category, particularly in light of sort of synthetic media influx, following obviously the sort of period of mis and disinformation that we've been living through already, the fourth category is poison. So just like, and I've actually started doing this in the two social platforms that I still allow myself to use, which is just like, as I'm having a little scroll, just start dropping stuff into buckets, and then using that as a way of reflecting on, well, it really shouldn't be that the majority of what I'm looking at is junk, and, you know, organically just trying to rebalance that. It's by no means perfect. It's still kind of, it's about to undergo through, you know, some actual research with humans testing this method. But those two things, like emotions as a filter, and then a kind of a bucketing system as a sort of second level of filtering, I think is where I'm at least. It's been working for me, but obviously the jury's still out on whether or not that works for everyone else as well.
I mean, that's fascinating as like a tagging system, because, you know, you think about the future of theoretically customized algorithms, even Blue Sky is playing with it, right? Like there's, you know, and is Farcaster, I think there's, you know, as you think about the ability to turn on different versions, how do you think about sort of, you know, being able to flex into different moods, being able to flex into different need states from time to time in a way that actually is tailored to what you need, rather than what, you know, the world determines the system needs. Who wants to jump in on this?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can just add a point here. Like, there's a quote I think about a lot. It's a René Descartes one of, in order to improve the mind, less to learn than to contemplate. And I think, you know, I've heard someone talk about TikTok in the sense of, you're not given a moment to reflect on what you're consuming. It's just input. And it's so intense that when you don't have the opportunity to pause and think, okay, well, what do I actually think about this? Then you're sort of just gathering everyone else's perspectives. Like, you're not actually forming your own. And I think that's kind of one of the big challenges. You know, I've been thinking a lot about the metaphor of information as food, because, you know, in English language, like we use, you know, the default metaphor is ideas are food, you know, a half-baked idea or digest that information. We use that a lot. I think it's kind of interesting that we don't kind of pause and reflect, and we've kind of lost a practice of that, because the intensity of our input has gone up so much. And so I think a big part of
a feed bag strapped to our face all day long.
Yeah. Like, you know, if information is food, then we're not chewing our food anymore. It's just going straight back. And I think that's at least in part a big challenge. That, you know, like the input has gone up, but we're not actually processing that anymore, or at least to any degree. And in some ways, that I think that increases the amount of influence it has over us, because we just kind of accept it. And so I think that changes our reality pretty dramatically.
Yeah, there's absolutely no mindful eating going on, and you know that. I mean, that's hard to teach people from like sort of a you know, intuitive eating and mindful eating kind of standpoint. From a dietary standpoint, I'm sure it's even, you know, tenfold harder to get people to think that way from an information standpoint.